But it's always interested me that Scotland has to drink with its various occasions. Almost any leisure or social activity in Scotland is linked closely with drinking, and not just drinking one drink, but often with getting drunk.
It's no secret that Scotland's relationship with alcohol is an extreme one. As the world's 8th heaviest drinkers and producers of some of the finest spirits and ales, Scotland's culture is certainly saturated with this substance. The government will soon introduce a minimum price for alcohol, but realistically, is it really possible to change a culture by law?
Last New Year, I couldn't get home. I just managed to crawl home. I couldn't get into bed myself. My brother was just as bad, and he's only 11. And just everybody from the age of about 5 upwards gets like that.
Recent figures highlight the growing popularity of drinking at home. The competitive pricing and extensive choice offered in UK supermarkets makes at-home drinking more affordable and is especially popular with the younger generation. The government hope that the proposed minimum price per unit will tackle this culture.
There has been a change in social approach towards drinking probably over the last 10-15 years, where there's a lot more drinking that's done in the house than what normally was the case.
It's all so beautiful.
Scotland is seen as a nation of people who love to drink. Even its most popular sitcoms reinforce this stereotype. Amusing as it is, how truthful is this popular depiction of Scotland's drinking?
All over the world, for instance, Scotland and Scotch are closely related, and the idea of Scotland being a country where drinking is widespread is widely established in other countries. Whether it's true or not, of course, is more debatable. Although we have this reputation of being very heavy drinkers, it may not be as justified as one might imagine. If you go back to Victorian Scotland, Industrial Revolution time, you'd see people getting absolutely paralytic with drink. But if you go back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, yes, it didn't used to happen, at least not to any great extent.
Taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my stately home, blazing on a sunny afternoon. And I can't sail my yacht, he's taken everything I got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon.
Not only does Scotland have a long history of drinking alcohol, but it also takes great pride in making it. Contrary to being a dying art, small-scale brewing is flourishing north of the border.
Rotten Ales was begun in the 1980s, which makes it relatively young in industry terms. However, you get a real sense that it contributes to a lively community and carries on the century-old tradition of brewing in Scotland.
Ale has been brewed in Scotland for hundreds of years. Probably nigh on 1,000 years, and it's become a very, very intrinsic part of the Scottish culture. People do enjoy drinking beer, much in the same way as other people do enjoy drinking whisky, which is another part of the alcohol industry that's very important to Scotland. The number of people who are employed because of brewing in Scotland, I mean, directly employed by the people who make beer and distribute beer, you've probably got something in the order of about 20,000 people. But on top of that, If you look at all the pubs and clubs and restaurants that serve alcohol, there are, hundreds of thousands of people employed. There's a real, almost anti-drink philosophy developing, which, is understandable given that there are certain issues surrounding drink in the UK and in Scotland in particular. But the brewing industry and the drinks industry in general take the view that the governments are tending to use a kind of blunderbuss approach on this, where they're hitting everybody and not targeting it on where the real problems are.
We do need to look at the balance between the industry's concerns and those of the clinicians who definitely want to see minimum pricing. But I can say to this chamber that there is absolutely no doubt, and must be no doubt, that the consumption of alcohol is price sensitive. And when you see that Alcopops and Buckfast are not affected by minimum pricing, you realise that we do have a job of work to do, because some of the problems are undoubtedly not with price, but are actually cultural.
With the industry's concerns of an anti-drink philosophy and demonisation occurring, the government's changing policy on alcohol will certainly offend some members of society. As a result of the so-called blunderbuss approach to tackle extreme cases of alcohol problems, Scotland's traditional pubs and brewing industries are likely to feel the heat. Not only is drinking embedded in our culture, but socially, alcohol plays a large part in all of our lives.
Yeah? Would you mind videoing our stag?
My problem these days is that I don't understand why people they feel that to have fun or to talk to other people they have to go out and drink.
Right.
And have to get absolutely off their face. Guys can't talk to girls without having a drink in their hand anymore, and I don't understand what that is, and I don't want to be like that anymore.
Such a confidence thing, alcohol, you lose your inhibitions, you're kind of you do feel better about yourself on a night out when you've drank, which is really bad because you look worse, but you think you're better.
In a bid to be healthier and challenge her social drinking lifestyle, Scottish student Ava Dennis set herself a goal to go teetotal for 8 weeks. Her 21st birthday was during this time.
So it's been 6 weeks today that I stopped drinking alcohol, and basically tonight is a great example of peer pressure. I have been told by a couple of my friends that they will put their dissertations on hold tonight. Only if I drink will they come out and drink too. So I had to basically take one for the team.
Alcohol is undoubtedly a social catalyst, which is an obvious explanation for its popularity. With the historical, industrial and cultural tradition alcohol has in Scotland, the extreme measure of minimum pricing to be introduced later this year may or may not have the desired effect.